was going to go live on YouTube, but I've never done that, and it turns out you have to wait. So, the more you know. Um, I don't know why I feel like recording this, or I don't have anything in particular I'm going to talk about. Um, I guess a little summary or context for what will probably come up in this video is grief and life after grief. I loved a man with my whole heart for 8 years, and he died in November of 2022. And I am not the same person. This is not the first big loss I've had. I lost a cousin of mine, well, a couple cousins, but the one in particular that really rocked my world when I think I was 18 when he died. He was very fresh 18. And that was a very similar loss in that there was no going back to life before it. There was life before and there was life after. And well, I think I'm handling this better than I did at 18 because I was 18 and had not gone to therapy, had not done anything, didn't know how to begin to process that. I remember feeling like all of a sudden I went from being a teenager, from being a child, to being in adulthood in a way that I didn't know how to uh, grapple with. This is similar in that I was somebody before him and I'm somebody after him. His birthday's coming up in like a month, a little less. And I'm struggling with that. And I know that it's anticipatory more than anything else. He would have been 40. And I've been writing a list of 40 ways he has improved my life. And it's good, and I think it's really helpful. Sorry, I have a reel uploading over here, so I'm looking at that. But it's also been really hard. Because, so to me, he was always my life partner. He was always my forever person, even when we weren't talking. This was not a super, like, hallmarky relationship where we had a brief misunderstanding and came back together in time for the Christmas small town carnival. This was more like, should you two talk even? Is this maybe not healthy? Um, and at times it wasn't, but it helped me certainly be a far better person than I was before him and after him. Um, I didn't and couldn't really understand nuance. I had very black and white thinking, which makes sense for different things in my past. But yeah, I grew a lot as a person. I'm a far better person for having loved him and been loved by him in all the right ways. We did it in all the wrong ways. And it doesn't mean that I would advocate that someone stay in a similar situation. It just means that I can find purpose and meaning in it now. One of the things that's been really hard for me is, so he was sick for a long time with alcoholism. Ultimately, he died in relation to that struggle. And why we had fights that were either about our different perceptions of what our relationship was, or often about his drinking. And the longest we went without talking was as a result of um, where his drinking had gotten. And and it's hard with that disease in particular because you lose the person, but they're there. You you look at them and they are the same person on the outside. They look the same. Well, not at the end, but for a long time they look the same. But the words and the responses are no longer that of your loved one. It's such a hard disease. And it's been, God, how many months is it? 8? It's been over 8 months. God damn. It's been, we're going on the ninth month. His birthday will be just after the 9 month. And I'm starting to want, I mean, here's the thing. If we're going to be candid, and clearly I am, because one of the things that I want to do more of and that I feel called to do more of is to speak honestly about my what's true for my soul, about my journey. Because a lot of times I censor myself for the comfort of others, and I think there's things that I've experienced and known that would be helpful potentially, if not to anyone else, then to me. Oh, the reel just went through. Um, I kind of forgot what I was. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna be candid here. So, losing him, he would not, to give honor to him, I don't believe he would have said that I was his girlfriend or his partner. Well, he would have maybe said I was his partner, but he would not have said I was his girlfriend, which I don't know how to interpret that, but here we are. But he very much was the person that I was in love with, that I took care of as best I could for years. And um, so the articles I read that were most helpful after grief were for that of someone who lost a spouse, a partner, because that's what it felt like. It went from having this daily routine with this person that I loved, that I checked in. Good morning, we talked in the morning, we talked at lunch, we talked at night. We saw each other several times a week. My life and his life were together. And one day, it wasn't anymore. And it sucks because I know that one, I'm not the only person. And more than anything, my heart breaks because as hard as it's been to go through that with someone who is significant like that for me for 8 years, I think of relatives and loved ones of mine who have lost spouses that they had for decades, built families with. And that pain, I hate that it exists. It's maybe one of the hardest things about being a person. But one of the things that came up for me was this, and I was warned of this in the articles, this profound loneliness. And it was excruciating to the point that I absolutely fell for a scam artist, did not give them money. That I talked about it with a friend of mine, and they're like, "Are you sure this is a real person?" And it was a real person. It just wasn't the person that I thought it was. But what a embarrassing thing to go through. You lose someone you love, and you're so like desperately lonely that you fall for a lie. And now I look back with like kinder eyes, but at the time I was mortified. And thank God I have this really sweet friend who was like, "Hey, not only does that make sense, it also served a purpose. Like, you were excited about love, you were excited about the possibilities again." And that's true. So as weird as it is to say, I'm a little bit grateful for that scam artist. But never give anyone your money. P.S. Well, that's a whole different. But I then tried to go on dating sites a couple times with horrifying results. More recently, it's just been a series of ghosting that was like a couple months ago, 2, 3 months ago, maybe, before the summer. And now I think I am reluctantly going to go back on because I do want to fall in love again, and I just don't know how. Been loitering around bookstores and nothing comes of that. So outside of that and libraries, I don't really go places. The craft store, but you know, shockingly, not a lot of people perusing for dates there. So I'm gonna start that again. I think at some point. And even that brings up the grief though, because maybe I'm not ready. Because it just makes me miss him, and I'm so afraid to kiss someone because he was my last kiss. Well, I guess I was his. I mean, I will at some point. I will kiss somebody again. But then when I do, and I know that that's one of those like arbitrary things. It was like when he died, his family gave me the necklace he was wearing because it was one I had made him. Well, I had picked out anyway. It was something we kind of made together, but and I wore that for weeks. It had his blood on it, which was so like I say it and it sounds so morbid, but it made me feel closer. And every time a little bit of the blood would like flake off or wash off, I would like cry because it felt like he was more dead again. It felt like he was more gone. Sure did. But then there was a day when I said, I don't think I need to be wearing this necklace anymore. And that's happened a couple times. And this idea of kissing someone new, you know, it's going to be hard. And also, who am I going to meet that's going to understand that? Like, I don't want to kiss someone and then start crying and be like, oh, it's just because the last person I was with and loved died. Like, how do you, that's not, it's not like a dating guarantee. There's no dating article on that. Here's a good idea to build a connection. Cry during the kiss and then trauma dump. LOL. So I don't know. There really was no point to this other than just to bear witness that I am in the middle. I think Brene Brown has a book about this. We love people's stories at the beginning and we love them at the end when they've overcome. We do not love the messy middle. It's too uncertain and unknowable. I'm in the messy middle. And I think I'm done not talking about it because I'm afraid of someone else's comfort at the expense of my own healing. So, if you dig this, whatever the fuck this was, you can follow along or not. That is for you. But I do hope, regardless, if you've watched this or even if you zoomed through to the end to be like, what is this lady's point? There really isn't one, other than this is just my journey and my truth. But I do hope that you are well. I hope that if you've watched this video with me, or God forbid you have or are going through the same thing, I hope that you know that you're not alone. I hope that there's some comfort in knowing, even though a lot of times our suffering and our grief and our loss feels just so isolating, we're not alone, and you're not alone, and you are lovely, and you deserve to exist, and you don't have to do anything to be worth living. Like, you are allowed to be. You are enough. So if nothing else, hope I can serve as that reminder. But until the next time, whatever that may be, I'm signing off.